Page 2 of the sample test. Suppose a punter for a football team wanted to have a hang time of 4.5 seconds. Okay, if it's going to be a hang time of 4.5 seconds, at time 0, it leaves his foot basically at 0, and it comes back down at 4.5 seconds. Which means we would have to have a polynomial that has 0 as one of its intercepts, so it means x or t, depending whether you call time in t or x. I'll call it t because that's what it really is. And at t minus 4.5, that would be 0 at 0 and at 4.5. But it has to be gravity, and I want it in feet, and so the gravity, if I type this in, I'll get a parabola that looks like this, and I want it to go this way, so it's got to be a negative, and it's got to be, the acceleration due to gravity is 16. So that would be the equation, the polynomial that describes the path. The height at some time t is equal to negative 16t times t minus 4.5. And you could distribute negative 16t times t, which would be negative 16t squared. And negative 16 times 4.5 is 72, plus 72t, I believe. If I didn't do my arithmetic wrong, I better check that real quickly if I can find my calculator. Where is it? There it is. Oh, don't want to make a mistake on the video here, so on negative 16 times negative 4.5, and I get 72 and t. So there's the equation that way, and here's it written in factored form. Determine the height the football would have to be kicked to. So now we got to find the highest place on that. If I type this equation into a calculator or into okay. So I'll type the equation in, negative 16x parenthesis x minus 4.5, close parenthesis, and graph. And it went up and came down, and it's up higher there. Window, I can look at it by making my max much higher, like maybe 100. And there it goes up and down, and there's my maximum. Second, calculate the maximum, and it's somewhere between 0 and 4.5. 0, enter, 4.5, enter, and I think it's about over at about maybe 2. 2 is my guess, and it says, nope, 2.25 is when it would happen. And the height would be 81. Determine the height the football would have to be, 81 feet. You could do it on Desmos too. Determine the average velocity between 2 and 3 seconds. Well, velocity is change in distance over change in time, or change in height over change in time. So I'd have to figure out the height at 3 seconds. Well, if I got it in here, I can go second, calculate the value at 3, and it says it's 72. At 3 seconds, it's 72 feet, minus at 2 seconds, it's at 80, over the change in time, that would be 3 minus 2 seconds, and I get 72 minus 80 is minus 8 feet per 1 second, and that's a velocity, minus 8 per 1 second, minus 8 feet per second. So on average, from here to there, it's on its way down. It was on its way still up a little bit, but then it starts going down. Determine the average velocity of the football just as it leaves the punter's foot. So we would do it at maybe 0 seconds and do the same thing, but at 0 seconds and at maybe 0.1 seconds or 0.01 seconds, so it's just barely off. So I'll do 0.01. And so second, calculate the value at 0.01 seconds. So it just left its foot. It's at, according to my calculator here, if you can see that, 0.7184. Remember, we're just estimating, so you could have used 0.1 in the equation, or 0.2, something close to 0. Minus what was the height at 0. If I put 0 in, I get 0 over the change in time. I use this time and that time, so that minus that is 0.01. This is in feet, and this is in seconds. And I get, dividing this by that, I get 71.8 feet per second. So leaving the foot, it was going at about 71.8. If I'd used the 0.1, enter, I would have had 70.04, 70.4 instead of 71.8. I did it a little closer, so I got a little bit better estimate. Okay. Complete the square to find the vertex and axis of symmetry. So this is y equals, so I can't just divide everything by 3. So I divide the 3 out of the x terms. So I go f of x will be 3 times x squared minus 4/3 x plus something minus something in the parentheses. That's still, all this will be times 3. Outside the parentheses is going to be the plus 10. Half of 4/3 is 2/3. So I'm going to have x minus 2/3 squared, because it's half of that goes in there. It's going to be times 3, and it's going to be x minus 2/3 on my square, and x minus 2/3, and so that square that we need to complete the square is 2/3 times 2/3, which is 4/9. 2 times 2 over 3 times 3, 4/9, 4/9. So 3 times these 3 we have. But we have to do 3 times this, so that would be minus 12/9. This is 3 over 1, so 3 times 4 is 12, 1 times 9 is 9. That reduces to, see, 3 goes into both, it reduces to 4/3, and I still have plus 10, which is 30/3. So minus 4/3 plus 30/3 is 26/3. I now have it in the vertex form of the equation of the parabola, and I know the vertex will be whatever makes this 0, which would be plus 2/3, and the height would be 26/3. And the center line, or axis of symmetry, will be an equation x equals 2/3. Complete the square to find the center and the radius of the circle. So this is equal to 0, so this is a case where we can divide by 2. So if I divide that by 2, I get x squared. And putting with it the x term, so negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5x. Then I'm going to go plus something and minus something for the x's. And then I'm going to go y squared, dividing it by 2. And then divide that by 2, that would be plus 4y. And dividing that by 2 will be 1 over here, but I need to go plus something and minus something for the y's equal 0. Half of 5, you could say 2.5 and 6.25 when you square it, or you can say 5 halves, and squared will be 25 fourths, which is 6.25. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So these three make x minus 5 halves squared. These three, if you make the box, x minus 5 halves, x minus 5 halves, you get x squared minus 5 halves x, and minus 5 halves x, and 25 fourths. These two go together to make negative 5x. Half of negative 5x and half of negative 5x makes a whole negative 5x. Same idea in here. This will be y plus 2, making those 3. And so we have this, which some of you think of as negative 6.25, and negative 4, that makes negative 10.25, plus 1 makes negative 9.25, or negative 9.25 equals 0. We need to put this on the other side to have it in the form of x squared, y minus squared, this minus the center, equals r squared. So if I put this to the other side, it's plus 9.25. So r squared is equal to 9.25, and r is equal to square root of 9.25, and I'll just leave it like that. And the center, this is moved positive 5 halves in the x and minus 2 in the y. That's page 2.